FSRCC hereby advises the general public to refrain from dealing with unlicensed financial operators who deceive individuals with unrealistically high investment returns. Make sure to verify the licensing status of such companies and schemes on this website. To report any suspicions of illicit financial activities, call 0700 225 5226, 0800 225 5226, or +234 817 665 6273. Let's work together to uphold the integrity of Nigeria's financial system. Announcer, FSRCC. Meals have a way of taking us on a journey, and when you add plenty of vegetables like ẹ́fọ́, ugu, and season with the rich taste of Knorr seasoning cubes, even better.
So, go ahead and elevate your meals with more vegetables and the rich taste of Knorr cubes. Today, eat for good.
So, babes, don't you think the radio is so boring these days?
Well, it depends on what you need. I just discovered a new sound.
Knowledge is power. Information is key. And that is why we aim to unlock the doors of opinion, unveiling the stories that need to be told. Join Omobola Sandra and Sage Babalola on the Morning Express on Mainland 98.3 FM from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. as we invoke the thought-provoking discussion, tackle the tough questions, challenge assumption, and give a voice to the unheard. This is the Morning Express on Mainland 98.3 FM.
On the Morning Express.
Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name is Sage Babalola and you're currently on to the Morning Express. 5 hours of conversations, different shows lined up for your listening pleasure. More importantly, we're here to give you information, keep you aware, entertain, educate you. Whatever your primary needs might be for tuning in to the radio, I can assure you we're more than capable of meeting those very needs. Well, for the Morning Express, our primary objective, of course, is to provide you with information early in the day, and our reference, of course, is our dailies. We look through the newspapers, we look at the headlines, and we give you this information. We don't just read the headlines to you, we go further by giving you some sort of analysis, by giving you more information, so that as you process this information and form your opinions, you're doing so from a more informed perspective. Sage Babalola is my name once again. Fouad Said will be joining us virtually as he takes on the responsibility of analysis this morning. But don't forget, we stream our shows live on social media: Facebook, YouTube, Mainland 98.3 FM. We're already live on Facebook at this time, facebook.com/Mainland 98.3 FM. If you rather YouTube, you can go on to YouTube as well. The handle is the same at Mainland 98.3 FM. And do well to join us on our X platform, formerly Twitter, at Mainland FM. Let's get into conversations for this morning. Trends in the papers is what is happening right now. From this very moment till 8:30 a.m. we review the papers, review our dailies, have conversations about the top story, and then at 8:40 a.m. we come back for Mainland Focus, and today happens to be Open Mic Thursday, so you can speak about any story that is of interest to you. Now, straight into it, let's have a conversation with Fouad Said, or say our salutation first of all before we start analyzing the papers. Good morning to you, Fouad. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good morning, Sage. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. The president is around. There were a lot of, diversions on the road today. I passed through places I didn't even know existed in Lagos. I don't know how the drivers find these places. I don't know how they know that there are roads in these places, but I got to work by the grace of God. But so, the roads there's a lot of traffic diversions right now. I think an advisory was issued yesterday by Lamata. So, there's a lot of alternative routes that you'd have to explore today to get to your destinations because of the president being in town to commission the Red Line Rail in Lagos State today. Fouad, do you have any thoughts on that, or we get straight to the papers?
we'll welcome the president to Lagos. He's a Lagos boy, quote and unquote, and so it's been coming back home again. I think it's like this third visit to Lagos since becoming the president, and he's here to. I think he was in Ondo State yesterday, of course, to visit the family of
the late Credolo.
Credolo, and I think he also had to make a stop at the home of personality, the Afenifere leader. So he's in Lagos to commission the Red Rail line. Of course, that's also one important project for a city like Lagos, or it's part of the intermodal transport plan of Lagos. So it's a good one. Again, these are some of the things we talk about when we talk about the functional mega city. Not just about population, but the functionality of public transportation and all of that is also important for a mega city like Lagos. So it's a good one that at least the Red Rail line, according to government, has now been completed and it is to be commissioned today. So that's a good one. That's very commendable, even though some of us are still hoping that the blue line would also be completed. The first phase was completed. I don't know whether it's completely active. But again, we'll continue to demand more for Lagos when it comes to the intermodal transport plan. We're hoping that the BRT system will be well structured to meet international standards. Because again, that's also one important part of the intermodal transport plan. We're also hoping that the ferry service in different parts of Lagos will also be upgraded to meet international standards from what you see in other parts of the world. And other things like tram, one is hoping that one day we'll see the tram service also existing in Lagos. But again, a good one. Welcome the president to Lagos, his home state, and would also follow up with the commission. And some of our guys will be at the commissioning of the Red Rail line. I think Amida would also take a ride. She has a ticket already. So a good way to also have first-hand information as to how the commission will go today.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Fuad Said. Now we're getting into trends in the papers proper. We're starting with the Punch newspaper, and the top story here: NCC rules out extension. Telcos bar 12 million lines. Right, that's that story. MTN, Airtel, others vow to enforce NCC order by midnight Wednesday. That was yesterday. But let's look at the story. We have here: the Nigeria Communications Commission has ruled out an extension of the February 28, 2024 deadline for the linkage of subscriber identity model cards, that's SIMs, to the National Identification Numbers, NIN. As a result, the telecommunication companies have been directed to bar 12 million lines which have not been linked to the owner's NIN after the expiration of the deadline. The Director of Public Affairs, NCC, Ruben Muka, confirmed the development on Wednesday, and reaffirming the NCC stance. Muka stated, "We already issued a public notice in this regard and all the information. If there was an extension, the NCC would have communicated that. But as far as I know, there is no extension." Now, telecommunication companies, firms rather, are supposed to bar the SIM cards of those who have not linked it to their NIN, and that's supposed to the expiration was yesterday, February 28. So by midnight today, chances are, if you haven't linked your SIM card to your NIN, your SIM card will be rendered inactive, and you actually have to visit the physical offices of these service providers before they can reactivate it for you, and you have to go along with your NIN. And the total number of affected individuals currently stands at 12 million people. So 12 million people have not done the SIM NIN linkage. Yes. Please go ahead.
What I think is that the NIN linkage with the SIM, I think the process should be made more seamless, and it should be immediately when you buy a SIM as you're trying to activate.
Okay.
Because I think that it's even wrong to allow people to start using the SIM and you are hoping that they will link it up. Because what it means is that there are criminals who will buy the SIM, use it for whatever they want to use it for, and just dump the SIM. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If the NIN itself is to track owners of SIM and for security reasons and all of that, I think that, look, as you're buying a new SIM, say, the requirement for activation should also be immediately linked to the NIN, so that you can't use it if you have not linked it at all. The idea of linking and waiting, you understand, so that you don't have a situation where you now have 12 million people who are still not linked their SIM with your NIN. That just comes to mind now. That look, why not have a platform, a system where you can't even activate the SIM at all? You understand what I'm saying? Without linking it immediately with your NIN. And for if there are 12 million things that have not been linked yet, if they decide to bar them, they bar them, and then you go through the rigor of going to the physical office to go do the needful. Because again, we are looking at security concerns. Yeah, that was a major point of the NIN itself. And if one is looking at the widespread kidnapping across the country and all of that, and one of the things the NIN was supposed to do was for easier tracking, identification of owners of SIM and all of that. There's no way you begin to argue or fall the decision of government to bar these things. You understand what I'm saying? So I just think that look, the right thing has to be done, and the process should be more immediate and seamless. So as you're buying your SIM, you can't activate until you link it to NIN, even before you are able to use it.
Well, those who have been using the SIMs for a long time, I think a lot of these telecom companies have been sending text messages and reminders. They did that quite a lot last month, a lot of messages, and they attach the link to do that to those messages, so you don't have to look for the link. They attach it to the messages, so you just follow that link. But the fears is that some individuals can take advantage of this, send false link to people, and ask them for private information. Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's one of the reservations that a lot of people had at this time. But unfortunately, if they have not linked it by midnight today, they would have to enforce the NCC order and interdict them. Even those who have submitted their NIN and it has not been confirmed, they will not be outrightly blocked, but there will be some sort of interdict. There are some functions they'll be restricted from having access to some functions, using their SIM cards. That will be what that is. But if you have not at all attempted the registration process, chances are by midnight today you would not be able to do anything using your SIM card. So that's that particular information on the front page of the Punch. It's on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. We have information here on page 22. Is the president saying, I take full responsibility. I apologize. I take full responsibility. Nigeria will recover, says Tinubu. We have here President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday appealed for patience from Nigerians over the current economic hardship in the country, giving the assurance that there was light at the end of the tunnel. The president said he was fully aware and took responsibility for the difficulties Nigeria had been subjected to on account of government policies. He said he would not complain but welcome all criticism since he was the one who asked to be Nigeria's president. The president spoke in Akure, the Ondo state capital, during his visit to the leader of the Pan-Yoruba socio-political organization, Afenifere. I don't think this necessarily needs any breakdown from me. So Fuad, I'll just ask for your reaction outrightly.
No, it's good that the president is taking responsibility. That's a better approach to addressing the concerns of Nigerians at this time than trying to go into the blame game strategy or trying to deflect on issues like some of his aides have been doing, trying to blame the Buhari government, trying to blame past government, so we didn't create this mess, we made this mess. Look, take responsibility. Like I've always said, Nigerians didn't vote people into government to begin to hear complaints and blame games. You understand? Yeah. They knew there was a problem, that was why they voted them into government to go in here to solve the problem. And I think it's a bit refreshing to see that the president is taking responsibility and saying that, look, we are working very hard to solve this mirage of problems. That's a better approach than trying to trivialize issues or then going on an attack mission to say, oh, anybody that complains is just an enemy of government, and all of those kinds of things. So I think maybe his aides now will take the lead from him, since that this is the president talking himself now that, look, we take full responsibility of the hardship in the country at this time, and all is being done to ensure we get back to normal. So I think that's it from the president, and I think just continue to ensure we keep them on their toes, continue to ask the right questions. What you call constructive criticism. We check all of these things checkable, and ensure that the right things are done. The social contract when it comes to governance is to better the lives of the people. That's why government people, when people surrender their lives to govern them, they've done that with the belief that you're going to go in there to make their life better, not worse off. So we'll wait to see what the president will be doing, what this government will be doing to get Nigerians back to normal, because things are not normal now, whether we like it or not. Right. So a good one from the president. This is what we want to hear.
Well, thank you very much, Afua. That is on page 22 of the Punch newspaper. Don't forget that we are live on Facebook and on YouTube, Mainland 98.3 FM, or facebook.com/Mainland 98.3 FM. We're reviewing the papers. We call this segment of the Morning Express Trends in the Papers. Myself and Fuad Said are looking through the front page of the Punch newspaper, looking at the stories that have been reported. We just recently reviewed the story on page 22, where the president is taking full responsibility of the situation in the country and asking that you trust in the techniques that have been employed. Well, moving forward, we have another story here. Subsidy removal. Petrol import crashes by 990 million liters monthly. That is the headline. We have here I apologize, I'm using an e-copy. Okay, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, on Wednesday said the importation of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, into Nigeria has reduced by 50% since the withdrawal of subsidy on the commodity. During his inaugural, National Petroleum Company Limited, the stopped importing petrol into Nigeria, the provisions of the appropriate 3 days ago, the landing basically, they're telling us that buying PMS as much as they used to before, 5 million. And the reason is simple. People don't have to import as much amount of money trying to, they're not importing less PMS.
Well, you shake it, they are saying. Smaller end, they are still gasping for breath. But for anybody that uses a V6 engine, that uses a V8 engine, a lot of them have even parked their cars. They are not using public bus. And for those that are able to buy, what they do is to buy and ensure they don't move around anyhow. They only go for most very important outings. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So naturally, because people don't have the money to buy, it's even worse because again the cost of living has gone up, so people have to prioritize what they spend money on. So instead of holding their car, they will rather use the money to eat and feed their family. You understand what I'm saying? So now the question is this a positive thing for the country that we are not spending so much on importation of PMS? The question is, the reality is that as people are not buying fuel and are not moving around, businesses have been slowed down. You understand? Because again, that 30-something million liters that has dropped per day are not necessarily people who just faff around because they have money to buy fuel. Some of them use the fuel to run their businesses. And because they cannot buy, some of them are even shut down their businesses because they can't even buy fuel to run their generators and all of that. Ask small business owners who use petrol power generators. Some of them have had to close down their businesses because they can't even buy fuel to run their generators. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
if the NNPCL is saying now it's a good one because they have to reduce the amount they spend on importing PMS. It's naturally, if you look at the economics of it also naturally means that it's a positive for the entire country. Because what it now means is that you slow down businesses, you make things more difficult for people. They have to prioritize their spending rather than buying PMS to run their businesses or go around chasing businesses. They are using it to feed themselves. So you understand what I'm saying now, because they can say, we are not spending so much to import PMS. But if you really look at it, it may not be a positive thing for the other Nigerian out there who has to use petrol to power his generator. And then this is the time that there's no power supply for Nigerians. Yeah, this is the period where there's so much heat. But people now have learned to open their windows perhaps more than 10 times before dawn because they can't even buy fuel to power their generators to have drink. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it is what it is. It was going to happen because again we were buying at maybe just a little over 200 naira. Now it's about 615, 630, depending on where you're buying from. In some other parts of the country, it's over 700 naira per liter. We're going to buy that. So it was bound to happen. The consumption was bound to drop, but I don't see it as anything positive, really. What we should be talking about is how we are going to fix our local refineries to be able to produce this PMS locally without having to depend on importation. You understand what I'm saying now?
Yeah.
If we're able to produce locally, I'm sure that some of these landing costs, some of these extra costs will be off it. And then people can return to their normal life, buy whatever they want. Like I said, people are gasping for breath to fuel their cars. I know what I'm saying. I'm talking from the point of experience to say. Some of us don't complain. we put up a face like everything is okay. But it's not really okay.
Which face are you putting on, Fuad? Which face are you putting? Fuad.
I'm telling you, it's just that, we come smiling, as if...
Fuad, come to the office today with bodyguard. Because if I see you, what do you mean? What do you mean? Please.
Look, there's this Yoruba proverb, there's this animal that is sweating, but it's because of the hair on the body that you don't know.
This is where we end the show. Please. don't try to relate to be the Mekunu people. Please.
Okay, do you want me to tell you what it costs on a monthly basis? Do you want me to do that on radio?
What, even though? Don't relate to Mekunu people like us. Please stop.
So we are sweating, but what can we do? And then somebody is saying it's a good one. What's good one?
Well, the report here says the reduction of 33 million litres means that the country is currently saving about 19.3 billion naira daily and 579.1 billion naira monthly as a result of the removal of subsidy on PMS by the president. And all of this is because, importation has reduced and also demand and consumption has reduced.
So that money, that's the problem again. The money they are saving now because Nigerians cannot afford PMS. They can't even fuel their cars. They can't run their business because these things are too much for them to buy. The same thing is what is happening to these. A lot of people can't even. That's why businesses are closing down. Can't fuel generators because there's no power. People can't live their normal life. They sleep in heat. Bathing almost 10 times before dawn and all of that. And then somebody is saying that okay, the money they are saving now. What now happens to the money? They give it to politicians, and those ones will not steal it. So what's the positive about it?
Well, Fuad, you are not the only one who thinks there's some sort of demerit, because the National President, Natural Oil and Gas Supply Association of Nigeria, has said that the consumption of petrol has dropped to the lowest level ever, and filling stations are now shutting down because there is no business anymore. Business is now very tough and marketers are struggling to survive. People do not buy petrol like before, so most filling stations are locking up because they cannot continue running at a loss. Corey also stated that over 200 members of NOGASA could be forced to withdraw their services because it was becoming increasingly difficult for oil marketers to fund their operations, a development that has led to the shutdown of 70% of downstream oil sector businesses. End of quote.
Job losses, businesses closing down. So where is the positive in all of that?
That we're saving money.
We are saving money to give to politicians. At the end of the day, they steal it. So what is the positive in that? That's why I keep saying that when government comes up with policy, they should put the corruption index of the country beside that policy. So whether whether it's working for us or it's not working for us. Because the assumption now is that, a lot of people that are buying PMS before are using it to pap around. No. They use it to run their normal life, go about their businesses, change businesses, power their generators and all of that. They can't buy again because they need to use the money to feed themselves. And as they are not able to run their businesses, people are losing their jobs. Businesses are closing down, people are losing their capital. And that's why we're saying that, look, can we just work very, very hard to fix our local refinery so that we can take care of local consumption, taking care of this extra cost that has made PMS prices gone to this extent. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what we're saying. It's not to say because we are now saving money. Look, I'm not so excited when government says they are saving money.
Why?
Because at the end of the day, you are going to channel this money through a very corrupt political class. That will still steal the money at the end of the day. So what are you saving? If you still only do that because it's not going on the other side, it's going to go from the other side. It's still the same thing, but in a different way.
Well,
so now that save money, can you do things to make people live their normal lives, please? So that they are not waiting for your rice and beans to eat. They can run their businesses, power their generators, look, their tailor. There's no light to have a small generator. If it's a better pass my neighbor, buy a little for run it, and then do your thing. Take care of customers' needs, make money, and then go and buy us service and feed your family, not waiting for tokenism of government. The quarter bag of rice. Look at what happened in Java recently. Because people want to buy 25 kg of rice, 7 people have to die.
This information is on page 33 of the Punch newspaper. This is still trends in the papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. Join us on our Facebook live stream, Mainland 98.3 FM, or facebook.com/Mainland 98.3 FM. We're streaming the show live at this time. We're still looking at the Punch newspaper. On the front page here, we also have federal government to crash drug prices, gets $1 billion from Afrexim Bank. Now, President Bola Tinubu will sign an executive order to bring down down the cost of drugs in Nigeria, which has been on the rise. The Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Pate, disclosed this on Wednesday at the Ministerial Press Briefing Series with the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, in Abuja. Pate said that the executive order, which Tinubu is expected to sign, will significantly reduce the cost of drugs and pharmaceutical products in the country. He says, and I quote now, "The rising cost of pharmaceuticals is a pressing concern, and we are taking decisive action to address the issue. An executive order will soon be issued to curb the escalating drug prices in the short term, while our mid to long term goal involves the domestication of imported drugs within the next 3 years, in collaboration with the Ministry of Trade and this, the minister stated. He says, aside from that, the government is moving to fortify the pharmaceutical infrastructure across the country through the construction of a pharmaceutical grade warehouse in 21 states. And also, the Afrexim Bank they've been able to secure a $1 billion pledge from Afrexim Bank to boost medical industrialization in the country. Pardon me for reading the entire paragraph. I wanted to get the information out there and quote the minister saying all of this. So far, the federal government is deciding to step in with, the crisis going on in the health sector right now. Drugs have increased by 100% and even more. So what they're going to do is they're going to domesticate the sale of some of these pharmaceutical products. The president is going to sign some sort of order that would cut down the price of these drugs. Probably there should be specific prices for specific important medication. And then we've been able to secure a $1 billion pledge from Afrexim Bank that also going to invest that in the medical sector. These are the long-term plans of the government regarding health in the country.
God bless you. Say at the end of the day, you said it's a long-term plan. What are the short-term plans? Because you are talking about a medical emergency here. People can't afford to buy drugs again. So all of the things he said, because when you said the executive order, I was waiting for the details of the executive order. What is the short-term solution to rising cost of pharmaceutical products?
They said the executive order. Fuad, I'm sorry. The executive order is the short term. The medium to long is that in 3 years they're going to domesticate the importation of drugs, and then in the long term, that's what they're going to use the $1 billion from Afrexim Bank to do.
The details of the executive order is what I'm waiting to get.
We don't have that yet. No, we don't necessarily have that yet.
So you just said executive order, and the report is incomplete. Because what are the details of the executive order? Because what people are saying is that one of the ways, short term, is to remove import duty from all pharmaceutical products. For now, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And begin to, maybe for those who are producing locally, begin to look at tax waivers for some of these pharmaceutical companies, at least in the short term. So, and is the government ready to do that? So that was why it would have been nice if we got the details of the executive order. And again, when it comes to government, there will be. I mean, I'm not going to work with there will be, because there may never be. Unless there's something already. Oh, if for example, this morning now say, we are reviewing the executive order and getting the details of what the solution is short term. Because again, all of these things are about $1 billion from affecting banks, localizing the pharmaceutical production process are long term. And those, look, we are not new to all of those sweet statements, beautiful statements. We are going to do this, we are going to localize. At the end of the day, nobody follows through, and nothing happens. So one would have thought that, okay, we are in such an emergency, drugs that people used to buy for. I think one of our regular callers, Dr. Koko, will be able to, come in on this, because he's been talking about the pharmaceutical sector and the crisis we have in that sector when it comes to the cost of pharmaceutical products. Selling drugs, prescription drugs for Nigerians. What people used to buy for 1,500, you go to the pharmacy now, it's over 5,000 naira. Drugs for 5,000 now, you have to pay like 25,000 naira. So a lot of Nigerians can't even buy prescription drugs again, and they are now resorting to the Alagbo. And you know what that means? If you want to know how bad this crisis is, go to any teaching hospital or any of the public hospitals, and you see the way people are begging with their prescription fees, begging for money to be able to buy drugs. Look, in a lot of our public health institutions, the only thing they will tell you that it's free. It's not free anything. Apart from the fact that you have to pay some small money for admission, pay for this and that, The reality is that you still have to pay through your nose to buy the drug. If you don't buy the drug, nobody will take care of your patient or of your family members or whoever you have brought there. People look. I shared this an experience with you recently now. That look, there was a friend that took a relative to last week, and in less than a week, say 3-4 days, they were already doing more than 500,000 naira buying drugs, doing all manner of tests, expensive tests, so. And drugs too, they were already grossing almost 400,000 in less than a week. So, and that's why, you know, there was also say recently we reviewed the story where they are saying that people are taking their people away from the hospital.
Yeah.
Because yes, they admit them that this is a public hospital, blah blah blah. But by the time the doctor begins to write drugs, buy this, buy that, and if you don't buy, you are just leaving your person there. Nobody will touch the person. They give you tests to go and do. You don't have the money. They will just be looking at you. They give you know, doctors can write all manner of things. You can't blame them. That's their job. Go and buy this one. Go and buy that one. You go to some of the pharmacies within the hospital, you don't even have the drug. You have to go out to go and buy. And it's way too expensive. It is an emergency, and what would it have been nice to have the details of the executive order? Short term. What is the government trying to do? Okay, for all pharmaceutical products, active ingredients to produce drugs, they are taking away duty for now. Maybe for the next 1 year or 6 months. So for those that are producing locally, we are giving them tax waivers, giving them these incentives and all of that. That is what we want to hear. We secure $1 billion from our president bank. It's a long-term thing. That's even if we are able to judiciously use the money.
Well,
so we'll wait to see whether we get the details of the executive order, really.
Okay.
For short-term solutions to the crisis we have with pharmaceutical products. Prescription drug.
It's on page 38 of the Punch newspaper. We have here, I think this is about the final story for Punch. The headline reads, Makinde suspends revenue collection on farm produce. Now, the governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, has suspended revenue collection on farm produce for the next 6 months. His special advisor...
Short-term solutions, can you see?
His special advisor on media, Sulaiman Olairaju, disclosed this in a statement on Wednesday. He said the move was made at a meeting with stakeholders in the agricultural sector. According to the statement, Makinde declared an immediate suspension of revenue collection on farm produce marketed within the state for the next 6 months, noting, however, that agricultural produce taken out of the borders of Oyo State would attract the necessary revenue. He said, and I'm quoting now, I have noted some few things from the point you all raised, and there are few decisions we're going to take. The first one is the issue of revenue, because those in charge are compounding the problem of increment in prices of foodstuff. For the next 6 months, nobody should collect any revenue from the people, and those involved should know that this takes effect immediately. End of quote. So he's saying that for consumption, for domestic consumption in the states, don't collect revenue from the agricultural sector. Just allow them do their thing, sell their product, and whatever profit they make, let them put it back into their business for the next 6 months. The food that we take outside the state, we can now generate revenue from that one. That's his
you want to keep all your farm produce in your state?
No, he says they're going to take some produce out of the state, and that's where they will get their revenue from. But the ones people will eat will not collect revenue.
What are those of us in Lagos? We don't farm anything.
You people should stop building industry and plants. If we want to do that, is that
the way they want to do it? Is that the way they want to do it?
He's trying to take care of his people, and he didn't say that food will go out. That's just where he will get his revenue from.
Saying now that if you just do your thing there and give it to our people, if you want to take that, we'll now tax you. So is that the way they want to do it now? Everybody for himself.
I mean, he has to take care of his people. I mean,
so what of those of us in Lagos? Where is the farm now in Lagos?
You pay.
You will pay.
Won't you pay for commodities?
Okay, we'll start to look out for your state people who are also in Lagos. Ask them. Do me, I do you now.
That's not how
I'm thinking for my Lagos people.
I mean, but what do you think about the initiative in itself?
But a good one again. You know, we just talked about the pharmaceutical sector or the more serious note. These are things that people are already talking about too. Even at the federal level, can we begin to look at some tax waivers, some reductions when it comes to duty paid on some products? You know, people are also suggesting that, look, in the short term, maybe for the next 6 months, can we please open up our borders to bring in food? You understand? And people will tell you that, look, there are 1 or 2 governors in the country that seems to have their, thinking cap on. It has to be the government of your state. That's why, to a great extent, I think, is at peace with his people. with his people in your state. I'm not saying it, but again, if you're going to be, rating it with other governors, and even if you leave it to the southwest, I think the guy is not doing badly. He has a way of responding to issues. I think he has a way of carrying people along. Even the NLC protest, he was part of it.
Yeah,
he joined them.
There.
Even that the other one was just JᴏɪR, but I think he was there.
God.
It's JᴏɪR now. Is it the same reality?
What? Okay,
Is it really what the people are feeling?
I think it's just solidarity. I'm with you.
Well, you can't be in solidarity with me when you don't feel what I feel.
But it's just. I mean, perception matters. Telling people.
Hey, perception is JᴏɪR now. What is the English of perception management?
I have no idea about it.
It's not English. Perception management is like you think that I'm for you, me too, I'm with you. It's not the JᴏɪR.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So, but again, I think it's a good one, and I think the government at all levels should begin to look at things like this. In the north, the problem is that in the north where the base comes from, north central part of the country, it has to do more with the issue of insecurity. You understand what I'm saying? But for initiatives like this are very, very good. Farm produce, all manner of tax, levies should be off. From farmers from now when they produce their things. When it gets to the market, kind of levies that they pay for things like that, take it off for now, at least for 6 months. And then I also think that we have to look at opening up our borders, bringing food forth now, at least maybe for the next 6 months.
All right. You can get more information on page 22 of the Punch newspaper. That's just the report here. Gridlock looms as president visits Lagos. That one is on page 28 of the Punch newspaper. Now let's move very briefly to the Guardian newspaper. This is still trends in the papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. Thank you to everyone who's currently on our live stream on Facebook. We appreciate you. We see you and we acknowledge you. You can join if you would like. Join us on Facebook. We're streaming the show live. You can also join us on YouTube. Mainland 98.3 FM is how you find us on the social media platforms that also double as a streaming platform. My name is Sage Babalola. I'm still having conversations with Fuad Said virtually, and together we are reviewing the stories that made it to the front pages of our dailies. We just spoke about the report on the front pages of the Punch newspaper, and now we're moving to the Guardian newspaper. The top story reported here on the front page of the Guardian: Nigeria spends 50% of oil earnings on production cost. That is the headline. The riders to the story: production cost per barrel 42% higher than estimated global average. 1 million barrel per day committed to IOCs. Dangote Afrixim debts rather. Now forward sales to worsen dollar liquidity. Poor earnings threaten 2024 budget implementation funding. Now, at least 50% of what Nigeria earns from the sale of crude oil and gas is going into crude production. That translates to an average of $1.7 billion monthly for a country that is in an economic mess. 3 years ago, when the cost of production was about $20 per barrel, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, launched a campaign to bring it down to $10. But instead of reducing, the cost have more than doubled to about $43. And the development coming at this time that Nigeria is facing a foreign exchange crisis and looking for every avenue to boost dollar earnings, including a plan to borrow $10 billion to defend the free fall of the naira, has earned Nigeria one of the countries with the highest crude oil production cost. Let me stop there because of our time. Fuad, the Guardian is drawing our attention to the fact that as much as we make a lot of money from crude oil sale, especially when global crisis cause the price of crude oil to increase, and then we make a lot of benefits. Unfortunately, we spend 50% of all of our earnings on production cost, and right now we're spending as much as $43 for production cost of each barrel, and we're spending on an average $1.7 billion monthly for crude oil production. And just like the Guardian has said, for a country that is in economic mess. Fuad.
Well, again, there are a lot of things that account for rising cost of crude oil production, and those things are quite technical. One will try to sort that out with some of the experts in the industry.
Yeah.
But what is being said is that I'm sure a lot of factors too, a lot of them domestic issues of domestic peculiarities would also account for why you have to spend more than half of what you used to, what you are earning to produce. You understand? But I think for this story, the most important part will be the issue of forward sale.
Yeah.
And how that is going to affect our oil production. Already for Dangote refinery now, there are, barrels of crude that are reserved for the Dangote refinery. And then there are also some that are reserved for our debt, repayment of debt from our Federal Bank. So what it now means is that, I think recently we've talked about it too, that look, if we are still doing 1.3, 1.4 million barrels of crude oil per day, we're going to be in trouble. Especially with even our budgetary provisions, the appropriation bill. Because what it means is that, look, we have some basic that we've collected money and it is crude that we're going to use to repay. And you have to repay because it assumes that what you have produced, there's a substantial amount of crude that must be reserved for the repayment of that money you've collected. The other one is also the pressure of supplying crude to our local refineries. One of them is Dangote refinery. There's still that problem. Recently, we also talked about the fact that a lot of modular refineries are complaining, at least the ones that have been able to set up the structure can't even get supply. Well, to at least to a large extent, the government is working very hard on fixing the Port Harcourt refinery. We also have to supply that too. So that's why experts are saying that, look, our daily oil production should be targeted to about 2.5 million barrels per day for us to have some stability. So that from that 2.5 million barrels per day, we can sort out our forward sale, which are the things we collected on crude, and then also look at supplying our local refineries, and then of course meet up our OPEC quota. You understand what I'm saying? But if we are still hovering around 1.2, 1.3 million barrels per day, then we're going to be in trouble. Added to this problem is the fact that a lot of the oil wells are so inactive. We need a lot of investment. Some of the IOCs are just faffing around. I don't know what the government would have to do to ensure that some of these IOCs are able to do what they are supposed to do at the upstream level to ramp up production of our crude. Because a lot of the oil wells are inactive. We need a lot of investment to show up production at that level. And then the ultimate one, oil theft. I think in one of the papers it is reported that I think about 40 illegal oil wells have been discovered. About 40. The Niger Delta there. And that was why 괶 SAGE Babalola, the former president, recently said that, look, about 80% of our oil production is stolen on a daily basis. So we also have to look at that. So, because again, one of the easiest ways, one of the sectors you can leverage on to get out of this economic quagmire is the oil sector. God has given us that opportunity to tap into it, but it will require a lot of deliberate effort to fix some of these problems.
All right. Well, you can get more information on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. We're fast running out of time, but we have here how federal government threatened, intimidated us to suspend nationwide protest by JᴏɪR. That's the report on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. And we have riders here. Labour rules out engagement with federal government on eve of nationwide actions. Group seeks JᴏɪR's resignation over corruption allegation. Hardship may push more people into mental health issues, says psychiatrist. Now, after taking the wind off the sail of a well-mobilized protest with an abrupt suspension, President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Joe Ajaero, yesterday said they could not proceed with a 2-day nationwide protest due to intimidation and threat. NLC and other related unions had commenced the national protest on Tuesday. However, in a communique issued at the end of the National Executive Council meeting and signed by the President, Ajaero and the General Secretary Ismail Bello on Tuesday, the NLC suspended the nationwide protest slated for Wednesday. Now, speaking at a press briefing, Ajaero says, and I'm quoting now, "We were threatened with all manners of consequences that would be meted out on us if we went ahead. We were, however, not perturbed, as lifting the heavy yoke of suffering from Nigerian workers and masses left us with no option than to press on. You may have noticed that almost all the routes to our office were being militarized in the morning. It took a lot of time to assess our office. These are not things you expect from a democratic society," end of quotes. There are many more things that he said, but basically the initial information we got was that the first day of the protest recorded such overwhelming success that there was no need to press on for a second day. But now Joe Ajaero at a press briefing is saying we had to suspend it because it was a lot of intimidation, it was a lot of threat, it was a lot of consequences that would have been meted out on us if we did not decide to shelf the second day of the protest. He says that there's also this tactic that they use, that on the eve of an industrial action, say there's supposed to be a protest tomorrow, today's evening we'll see stakeholders in government calling for a meeting that lasts into wee hours of the night, such that the next morning they're too disorganized to even do what they're supposed to do or what they had planned earlier. And because of that, moving forward, they would not be gracing any invitation for any meeting on the eve of any planned industrial action, etc., etc. What?
All right. I think the leadership of the organized labor, they have to be very, very careful, because they are fast losing their credibility. Say, there are two sides to this story. Let's first talk about the labor side before we talk about the government. I'll make it very fast. Don't worry.
Actually.
Yeah, 1 minute. We'll make it very fast.
Okay.
You know, and I think the leadership of organized labor have to be very careful. There are already insinuations as to them being compromised, blah, 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 and all of that. And they have to be very, very careful, because they have to be consistent in what they are saying. Because the inconsistencies are already giving an inclination to the fact that, look, they cannot be trusted. They say one thing today, the next day they are saying something else. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As a labor union, Mr. Jᴏɪᴜ is too experienced to be giving this kind of excuses. Their government will intimidate you. He doesn't know that they will come after them. As a labor leader, these are things you plan along with whatever you are doing. As you are announcing the protest or planning the protest, you must know that the government will come after you. They will intimidate you. And I'm happy that he has now said that anytime they call for a protest or an industrial action, the government will now call them to a meeting on the eve of that action. In itself, it's about perception management about them, that these guys cannot be trusted. Then you now cancel the thing. They will now give you vague promises, like it happened in October. So that's why he's saying now that, look, we will not go into any last-minute meeting with government again on the eve of any decision. I'm surprised that they are just realizing that. You know, I keep saying that if this organized labor wants to get anything from this government, this particular one, no, I'm not talking about another one, no. This government, they need to put on their thinking cap. They need to work in unison. And they need to be more strategic. This is the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led government. And I know why I'm saying that, look, if they really want to go into negotiations and get anything out of this government, they have to be strategic, they have to work in unison, and they have to put on their thinking cap. So that's the side of labor. And then on the side of the government, intimidation, harassment. Some of us, even at the level of unionism that we participated in, we understand the powers of government. But people who don't know, they don't know. The government is very powerful. They can put everything against you as a labor leader. Within the fold, they disorganize you. They are modes within the system. So they break your rank and file. Government has the power. But what I've told, I think I told me yesterday that, look, the government can compromise organized labor. They can break them. They can intimidate them. But it will be better for the government to focus on the aspirations of Nigeria, because they cannot intimidate, compromise, or break the resolve of the people when they decide to rise against the government as a result of the hardship in the land. So that's why people are telling the people the government should focus on solving the problem than the strategy of intimidation, harassment, and compromise. It will not work.
Well, Fᴜʟᴜ, thank you very much. Unfortunately, this is where we're going to have to draw the curtains for conversation. But not to worry, Mainland Focus is coming up at 8:40 a.m. Very briefly, we can have a conversation here about the few remaining headlines, or just read out the headlines. Federal government recruits 2,497 medical professionals to address the brain drain. We have interest rate hike takes toll on stock market as investors lose 1.4 trillion naira. The decision of Cardoso and crew. Yeah, let's just move from this. We have on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Lastly, 괰ᴜ report: federal government labor disagree on job losses, and also Edo Guba fresh crisis brews in PDP. Tinubu to Nigerians: I will not rush to restructure. And again, that is all we can take for this morning in trends in the pay. Wait, Fuad, there's 8:40. We'll come back.
It's okay.
Mainland Focus at 8:40 a.m. Let's take a few commercials and we'll be back for conversations. This is still Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name is Sage Babalola.